Welcome to the Untethered Airway Podcast, where airway health meets real-life impact. I'm Dr. Meggie Graham.
I'm Dr. Liz Turner.
And we're the moms and airway-focused dentists who founded the Untethered Airway Health Center. On this podcast, we're pulling back the curtain on the root causes of breathing and sleep challenges,
helping families and fellow providers understand how airway-focused care can change lives.
Because it's not just about teeth, it's about total body health.
Let's dive in.
Hi everyone, and welcome to Still Struggling, which is a series I decided to do here on the Untethered Airway Podcast. I'm Dr. Meggie Graham. I'm a provider, I'm a mom, and I, of course, have been a patient. And so this series is personal. It was born out of the tremendous feedback that I received after I published a public response to Children's Wisconsin, calling them out for a string of dismissive, kind of placative, simplistic articles on topics like ADHD, pediatric feeding issues, and sleep. It was really dismissive, and it really got to me after I'd read them in succession. They weren't just fluffy articles. They reassured without informing, and they told parents not to worry when they really should have been offering tools and support or any acknowledgement of the actual science that exists now, rather than just kind of ignoring it. And that kind of dismissiveness, it causes harm, because while we wait, kids struggle. While we normalize symptoms, functions decline and we compensate. And while we call these things common, we often ignore what's right in front of us. So this series, Still Struggling, is here to dig in deep. Each episode is focused on a symptom or a pattern that often gets brushed off, when in reality, it's part of a much bigger picture. Sleep-related breathing disorders or poor breathing in general. So today we're going to talk about one of the most common things that I hear in the office, and it's a very commonly ignored concern, which is bedwetting, also known as nocturnal enuresis. I want to take a closer look at what's really going on when a child can't stay dry at night, and why the root cause may have nothing to do with the bladder at all. It can cause a lot of suffering, especially when kids get into older ages and when they want to start to go to sleepovers. And so it is more than just something that we can dismiss and they'll grow out of. It also has implications on their mental health. But there is a really scientific reason why kids that can't breathe well also have accidents at night. So what is enuresis really? Nocturnal enuresis is the medical term for bedwetting. It means involuntary urination during sleep in a child over the age of 5. So there's primary enuresis. That's when the child has never had long, dry stretch. This has never been something they've been able to accomplish. They've always had accidents at night. And then there's secondary enuresis. And that's when they were dry for a while and then they started bedwetting again. It's common, but remember, common does not mean healthy. I would really encourage you to go back and check out my Instagram post where I really laid into what the articles were saying and why I thought they were so dismissive. But the point that I was trying to drive home then that I want to talk about today is that common does not mean healthy. So I want to say this very clearly. Bedwetting is often a sign that the brain and the body aren't getting the deep regulated sleep that they need. And for many kids, that's because they're not breathing well while they sleep. So what's actually going on? When kids breathe poorly at night, maybe from a narrow palate, because the roof of the mouth is narrow, the floor of the nose is narrow, they have enlarged tonsils, they're mouth breathing, they have low tongue tone, they have lower oxygen saturation, and their brain senses this, and it prevents them from dropping into deep restorative sleep. It keeps them in fight or flight. It keeps them in high alert state because it has to, because it's so essential that the child is able to continue to breathe. So the brain stays on alert, constantly checking, am I safe? Can I breathe? Now here's where this connects to bedwetting. At night, the brain is supposed to release antidiuretic hormone, or ADH. It's a hormone that doesn't allow the urine to be diluted. It tells the kidneys, hey, slow down the urine production, we're asleep, we don't need to go to the bathroom. But fragmented sleep from poor breathing disrupts antidiuretic hormone, and it's not secreted, and without that, the bladder just keeps filling up. So even worse, the brain is so overwhelmed with keeping the child alive and oxygenated that it doesn't trigger them to wake up and pee. So what happens? The child sleeps through it and wets the bed. They have an accident. A study in 2006 in the Journal of Urology found that kids with enuresis and sleep-related breathing disorder had lower antidiuretic hormone in their system. So their antidiuretic hormone at night while they were sleeping was lower, not giving the bladder the signal to stop producing urine. In 2006, Gozal and his team wrote a paper in Chest Journal, connected this even further, showing that even mild airway obstruction can cause chronic sleep fragmentation, which throws off ADH regulation and bladder control. So there's scientific evidence that shows that poor breathing impacts the sleep quality, which then causes the continuation of bedwetting. In 2013, there was a study in neurology and neurodynamics, and it showed kiddos that had sleep-related breathing disorder were 3 times more likely to wet the bed than kiddos that could breathe well and sleep undisturbed. That's huge numbers, and yet we're telling parents all the time that this is no big deal, don't worry about it. There's another study. In sleep medicine, there was an article by Guillaume Minot and his team that looked at kids who snored and were mouth breathing, and they were still wetting the bed. When they simply removed the soft tissue obstructions, the bedwetting often stopped. No bladder alarms, no medication, just helping them breathe better. And in 2022, in Frontiers in Pediatrics, they emphasized that enuresis should be absolutely screened as a possible red flag for sleep-related breathing disorder, especially in kids who also snore, grind, and breathe through their mouths. We'll dive into those topics in detail later. But all of these red flags should not be ignored. They should at least be ruled out as a primary cause. So what do you look for? Here's a list I go through with families. Does your child snore? Do they breathe with their mouth open while they're sleeping? Do they grind their teeth? Are they restless? Do they wake frequently? Do they have a hard time falling to sleep? Do they get up and come into your bed? Do they wake up sweaty? Do they call out? Do they have night terror? During the day, do they have any speech delays or sensory issues? Are they really sensitive to different fabrics and different textures? Do they have a history of reflux or frequent ear infections? Are they picky with their food? Do they refuse food? If you're nodding your head to even 2 of these, please look into airway, because these are not separate issues. They're part of a very broad, big, singular story. Breathing. So what do you do now? Start with observation. Watch your child sleep for a few minutes tonight, or check on them before you go to bed. Is their mouth open? Are they breathing audibly? Are you hearing them grind their teeth? Next, record it. A 60-second video can be incredibly helpful when you're speaking to your provider and really hard to ignore. Then, find a provider that understands airway and respects your opinion. That might be a pediatric ear, nose, and throat doctor, an airway-focused dentist, maybe even a myofunctional therapist can be your true quarterback. Maybe a pediatrician trained in sleep health. There are so many non-invasive ways to support better breathing and sleep in kids. You're not powerless. Follow your gut and don't give up. So here's the thing, I mentioned this earlier, bedwetting is hard on kids. It impacts self-esteem, confidence, independence, and it's hard on parents too. The laundry, the worry, the shame. It's also a huge opportunity because it's often one of the earliest signs that the nervous system and the airway aren't working in sync. You can't breathe well, you're stuck in sympathetic nervous system tone, which is fight or flight. And when we address the airway, when we give the brain space to sleep well, the body figures the rest out. Dry nights become a natural byproduct of better breathing and better sleep. So often in my practice, we're talking about structure. We're talking about idealizing the bite. And when we do that, one of the side effects is better night's sleep, and we get parents that report back to us that their kids are no longer wetting the bed. So these things happen. The science is there. Make sure your provider is listening to you and you're not being dismissed. If your gut tells you that something's off, you're probably right. You don't need to wait and watch. In fact, that can cause harm. You can look deeper, you can ask better questions, and you can start building a care team that truly gets it. I really appreciate you being here with me today on Still Struggling as part of the Untethered Airway Health Podcast series. So next time, we're gonna talk about a big one. ADHD-like behavior and the airway, because when kids can't breathe, they can't rest. And when they can't rest, they can't regulate. I'm Dr. Meggie Graham. I'll see you at the next episode. Thanks for tuning in to the Untethered Airway Podcast.
If today's episode helped you see things differently,
Please share it with someone who would benefit from hearing this. And don't forget to subscribe.
want to learn more about airway health or connect with our team?
Please visit our website, untetheredairwayhealthcenter.com, or follow us on Instagram at Untethered Airway.
Until next time, bye.